Hi, welcome back to Frame by Frame.
Okay, let's dive in. Sometimes you get source material about something that's hailed as, like, the greatest ever.
Right, for decades even.
Yeah, and you sort of expect it to feel a bit dusty, like homework.
Totally. History class vibes.
But then you actually dig into the sources, and wow, it feels incredibly modern. Still relevant, still electric.
Absolutely. It shows that greatest isn't just about age, it's about lasting power.
That's exactly what we're getting into in this deep dive, using the insights from the material you shared. We're talking Citizen Kane.
The 1941 film, directed by Orson Welles when he was just, 25?
Incredible, and the sources hammer home that it's still consistently voted the greatest film ever made.
Yeah, and they really make a strong case for why it doesn't feel dated, why it still feels revolutionary.
So that's our mission today, really, guided by these sources. Why does this 80-plus-year-old film feel so now? What is it? The story, the tech.
The acting, the themes, all of it. According to the sources, it's the whole package that makes it this enduring masterpiece.
Okay, so where do we start? The foundation.
Let's start right there. The story itself. The sources lay out this amazing hook. You've got Charles Foster Kane, huge newspaper guy, incredibly powerful.
Rich beyond belief.
Exactly. And he dies. Alone. In this enormous kind of creepy palace, Xanadu. And his last word, for just one word, is Rosebud.
Rosebud. And that single mysterious word is basically the engine for the whole film, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A reporter gets the assignment, find out what Rosebud means. So he goes around interviewing people who knew Kane, trying to piece together his life story from their memories.
Which brings us straight to something the sources highlight as really groundbreaking for 1941, the way the story is told, the structure.
Oh, absolutely. It's not your standard A to B to C biography. Not even close.
No, it's described more like a jigsaw puzzle. Revolutionary, they call it.
It really is. We see Kane's life, but it's all fractured. Told through these different viewpoints, his ex-wife, his best friend who he fell out with.
His business manager, this guy writing his memoirs.
Right. And crucially, their memories conflict. They're biased. They're incomplete. It's not one objective truth.
The sources mention this shows how truth is subjective, filtered through who's telling the story, like that Rashomon effect, but years before Rashomon.
Exactly. It was pioneering that idea on screen, that everyone remembers things differently, that the past is kind of slippery.
And running through this whole complex structure, there's this powerful core theme. The sources describe it as, well, a tragedy.
A profound one. It's about what power and wealth, especially that kind of massive wealth, can do to a person. The corruption.
Kane's search for love, but he keeps messing it up.
Yeah, he seems to gain everything the world values: money, influence, possessions. But the sources argue he loses his soul, his connection to people. And he loses that simple happiness that Rosebud, whatever it is, seems to represent.
It's a heavy foundation. So how do Welles make it feel so different, visually, sonically? Because the sources really dive into the technical side.
This is key to why it feels so modern. Welles, he was already famous for that War of the Worlds radio stunt.
Scared the whole country.
Right. So he comes to Hollywood, and he's not interested in just following the standard playbook. He wants to break rules.
And the sources point first to the look, the cinematography, specifically deep focus photography with Greg Toland.
Yes, Greg Toland, an absolute genius. So back then, the norm was shallow focus. The main actor's sharp, the background's blurry.
Keeps your attention on one thing.
Exactly. But deep focus, that keeps everything sharp. Foreground, middle ground, background, all crystal clear at the same time.
It sounds normal now, maybe, but imagine seeing that in 1941. It must have been mind-blowing.
Oh, completely. And the sources give great examples of how it wasn't just a gimmick, it was storytelling.
Like that shot, young Kane. He's playing outside in the snow, way in the back, totally happy.
While inside, closer to the camera, his whole future is being signed away by his parents and the banker. You see innocence and doom in the same frame. Powerful stuff.
Or the scene with Susan Alexander, his second wife.
Yeah.
The suicide attempt.
Yeah, devastating. You see the empty medicine bottle, you see her on the bed, and you see Kane smashing the door down in the background. Cause, effect, rescue, all simultaneous.
And the sources make this great point about why it matters. It changes your role as a viewer.
Right. You're not passive anymore. Welles isn't forcing you to look at just one thing by blurring the rest. He's giving you multiple points of interest, multiple layers of reality in the frame.
So you have to decide where to look. It makes you an active participant.
Exactly. It pulls you into the scene in a different way.
That sense of involving the audience, it extends to the camera angles too, right? The sources talk a lot about those.
Oh yeah, they were daring. Lots of low angles, looking up at Kane, looking up at his massive buildings like Xanadu.
It makes him seem huge, powerful, intimidating even.
Totally. But later, those same low angles make him seem trapped inside those huge empty spaces, isolated by his own grandeur.
And they use the opposite too, high angles.
Uh-huh. Often looking down on characters who are, well, losing power. Especially Susan. It makes him look small, trapped, insignificant against Kane's scale and ambition.
And those weird tilted shots, canted angles.
Yeah, those are used very specifically, the sources say. Like when Kane's world is literally falling apart after he loses the election is a key moment. The camera tilts, showing visually that his life is off kilter.
It's all so deliberate. The lighting too, chiaroscuro.
Very deliberate. Inspired by German expressionism, the sources explain. Deep, deep blacks right next to stark whites. It creates mood, obviously, but also mystery.
Symbolizes his inner conflicts.
Exactly. You often see faces half lit, half in shadow. It mirrors Kane's own hidden depths, his contradictions.
Okay, and what about sound? The sources mentioned that was innovative too.
Hugely innovative. For one thing, overlapping dialogue.
People talking over each other.
Yeah. Like real people do in arguments or excited conversations. Hollywood dialogue then was usually very polite. One person speaks, then the next. This felt chaotic, real.
Adds to the intensity.
Definitely. And echoes, especially in Xanadu. The sound design itself tells you how vast and empty and lonely that place is.
Sound bridges too, they mentioned.
Right, where the sound from the end of one scene carries over into the start of the next one.
Ah, to smooth over the time jumps. Because the story jumps around a lot.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's a really elegant way to link different periods of Kane's life together seamlessly.
So you have this incredible technical toolkit, but you need the actors to make it land. The sources really emphasize the cast.
Oh, the performances are legendary across the board, starting with Wells himself as Kane.
I mean, playing a character across, 50 years?
More like 60, from youth to old age. The sources call it a performance for the ages. And you see the physical transformation, his energy, his walk changing from this confident stride to this heavy shuffle.
His voice changes too, right?
Completely.
Yeah.
From charming, commanding, full of life, to bitter, hollow, weary. Wells makes Kane, who could easily be just a monster, feel human, tragically human.
Then there's Joseph Cotton as Jedediah Leland, Kane's best friend.
His conscience, in a way. Cotton brings this warmth and intelligence, but also this crushing disillusionment as Kane changes.
The sources mention his drunken opera review scene.
But it's a masterclass.
Yeah.
Tragic, funny, bitter, all at once. And that final confrontation scene between him and Kane just crackles.
And Dorothy Cummingore as Susan Alexander Kane, the second wife.
Her journey is just devastating to watch, as the sources point out. From this hopeful, maybe naive singer
to this broken, trapped woman, her disastrous opera debut, that terrified little voice.
It's painful. And later, just sitting alone in Xanadu, playing solitaire endlessly, it perfectly captures the emptiness of the life Kane built for her.
Everett Sloane, Mr. Bernstein, Kane's loyal manager.
Sloane gives him such warmth and quiet dignity. Fiercely loyal. The sources highlight his monologue about the girl on the ferry.
Oh yeah, the girl in the white dress he saw just once, years ago.
Such a poignant moment about memory, longing, the little things that stick with you. Beautifully done.
Even smaller parts are memorable. Agnes Moorehead as Kane's mother.
It's chilling. In just a few minutes on screen, she's so cold, so pragmatic, selling her son away. The sources argue that one decision basically seals his fate. Unforgettable.
And Ray Collins as Boss Geddes, the politician Kane fights.
Pure, cynical menace. That confrontation where Geddes tells Kane, "You're finished." The sources call it electric, and it really is. And beyond the acting and the core techniques, the sources touch on other crucial elements.
Like the music, Bernard Herrmann's score.
His first film score, before all the famous Hitchcock stuff. And the sources stress, it's not just background music, it tells the story.
Character themes, motifs.
Yeah, like the simple haunting tune for Rosebud, and then these big crashing dissonant sounds for Xanadu, capturing its cold, oppressive feel.
The sets must have been incredible too. Van Ness Polglass, Perry Ferguson.
The art direction is key. The sources point out how the sets reflect Kane's journey. You go from that cramped boarding house room where his childhood ends
to Xanadu. This vast, echoing mausoleum filled with crates of art and statues he never even opened.
Exactly. The sets themselves show his emotional state, immense wealth, but utter emptiness and isolation. It's all visual storytelling.
And the editing, Robert Wise. The Robert Wise.
Yeah, before he became a famous director himself. The sources single out that breakfast table montage,
Right, showing Kane's first marriage falling apart over years.
condensed into maybe 2 minutes. Just through visuals, minimal dialogue. It's incredibly sharp, efficient, and emotionally powerful editing. Brilliant.
Okay, so when you pull it all together, the story structure, the deep focus, the angles, the sound, the acting, the music, the design, you really start to see why it still matters, why the sources say it's so foundational.
It's clear, isn't it? It didn't just borrow techniques. It invented so much of what we now consider modern film language.
Complex flashbacks, the layered sound, deep focus, unreliable narrators.
Psychological depth in characters, non-linear plots. Stuff we take for granted now. Kane was pioneering or perfecting it with such confidence.
And the themes are just timeless.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Power corrupting, lost innocence, the search for love or meaning, memory being tricky, the emptiness of materialism. These things don't get old. They hit just as hard today.
Plus, the sheer technical skill still impresses, doesn't it?
It really does. You watch it now, and the camera work, the lighting, it doesn't feel quaint. It feels bold, artistic, incredibly effective, still looks amazing.
And you can't separate it from Wells himself.
No way. This 25-year-old kid given near total creative freedom writing, directing, producing, starring, that's almost unheard of, then and now.
That ambition, that singular vision, it just radiates from the film.
It's a huge part of its energy, its uniqueness.
And finally, Rosebud. It all
Yeah.
comes back to Rosebud.
And the sources insist it's not just a plot device, not just a gimmick.
No, it's the heart of it.
It's the symbol, isn't it?
Yeah.
The heartbreaking symbol of everything. Kane lost that simple, pure connection, that innocence that he spent his whole life and fortune trying and failing to get back.
So the bottom line from the source material seems pretty clear. This is no museum piece.
Not at all. It's alive. It's described as ambitious, powerful, emotionally resonant, technically stunning, a living masterpiece.
So watching it isn't homework. It's, well, the sources suggest it's an electrifying experience.
Yeah, you're watching genius at work, changing the rules of cinema right in front of you. You're seeing incredible acting. You're grappling with really deep questions.
It really is, as the sources frame it, the foundation of so much modern filmmaking, but it still feels fresh and moving.
Completely. A towering achievement that hasn't faded.
You know, Citizen Kane, it shows this life spent getting everything, but yearning for this one simple thing, the symbol of what was lost. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? What little rosebud, what simple thing might we be sacrificing in our own lives, our own pursuits?
And can you ever really get those things back
No.
once they're gone? That's the lingering question, isn't it?